𝙈𝙚𝙣𝙩𝙾𝙗𝙗 𝙈𝙚𝙣𝙯. Yo, what's up everyone? It's your boy 𝙁𝙚𝙣, and you're back again with another video. Before we start off the video, I just want to go ahead and just say a few things before we get into this in-depth video. I just wanted to say I wanted to let you guys know exactly what's been going on with me, why I haven't recorded anything, put anything out for a while. So let me just go ahead and just tell you now. So I've been really busy over the course of the last 2 months. I've been trying to make sure, I've been switching between jobs. I've been very busy with my Islamic studies. I also caught COVID, and it was literally some of the most, intense thing that I can ever go through in my life. But nonetheless, alhamdulillah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing perfectly fine by the grace of Allah. I'm doing much better. I still have a cough and coughing up a little bit of phlegm, but this is to be expected. Supposedly, I've talked to the person that I spoke to right when I took my COVID test, did say that you might experience a cough after everything. Like after you experienced all the symptoms, the cough may linger for quite a while. And so that's what I'm still going through. So if you hear me cough a little bit throughout the video, then you know why. But also I heard from other friends that it does last quite a while. So once again, not much I can do or control, but I've been trying to stay active. I've been trying to, at least keep up with the times and stay busy in some way, shape or form. Though I haven't been as busy as I had liked to be, I still have been trying to somewhat keep up. So if you're wondering why I'm in a tank top right now, it's really hot. So trust me, I'm not trying to show off any skin. But I think a tank top is perfectly suitable for right now. I might switch into a shirt later if somebody decides to comment on this video and say what are you doing, man? Cover up. But nonetheless, I feel like I'm perfectly covered right now. Nothing too intense is showing, at least. So do forgive me. But anyway, I just wanted to go ahead and get into this video. So this is a video that I've been waiting to pretty much listen to. I've seen a lot of the Ummah comments on these videos. I've seen it pop up in my news feed on Instagram, and I've also seen it pop up a lot in my YouTube feed. Supposedly this video has gotten a lot of backlash from the Ummah because Jordan Peterson said some outlandish things. So we're going to get right into it. So without further ado, let's just hop right on in.
Hi all. I have been informed by many sources and also observed online, not least because of my discussions with a variety of Muslim thinkers, supporters and critics, that I have developed an audience in the Muslim world. I would first like to say that I could not be more pleased or honored that such is the case. It has been so heartening to see that my biblical lectures, for example, attracted a large Muslim audience, and that the comments from the Muslim watchers and listeners to my YouTube channel and podcast have been so extraordinarily positive. And all this is lovely to see in the aftermath of the extraordinary Abraham Accords, which have laid out the possibility for peace between all the people of the book in an unprecedented manner. And I have something to say as an extension of all of this.
All right, before we continue, I heard that he did say in the beginning that he gave kind of like a little speech as far as thanking the Ummah for being so kind to him and being such supporters of his movement and his lectures. I haven't listened to all of his biblical lectures. I have listened to some of them, but I've fallen asleep on many of them. Usually I just listen to them before I go to bed every night and just fall asleep. So I haven't listened to them thoroughly enough, but they have been very conducive to me learning more about the faith. So, one thing that I haven't told you guys is that I've been reading, or at some point I do plan on reading the Bible after I've read the Quran fully. So I want to go back and actually read the Bible and actually learn the Bible this time, not only for the sake of Allah, but only for the sake of myself, because I feel like it's important that we kind of, we essentially speak on, or just not speak on, just essentially know exactly as to what these books said, and where exactly are the, the changes to the Bible and the Torah. Now, when it comes to the Torah, I don't know if I'll read it, but I will. But supposedly a lot of the Old Testament is the Torah. There's just a little bit of a difference as far as what scriptures have been added and what have been removed. So I might look into that. But other than that, I definitely have been trying to get into the more biblical stuff as well. simply because I feel like there's still knowledge there. And I believe there's a hadith that says specifically that that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said specifically that if there's anything from the previous books that align with Islam, then we take it. But if it doesn't align with Islam, then we disregard it. We don't take it as anything. So I think that's very important that we learn, or at least I learned thoroughly, what we can add together and what we can take away. And so maybe that will even help build the bridges between the different communities. Because I think like sometimes when it comes to the Ummah, I feel like I see a lot online, not really much, not much in person, but a lot online of different Muslims and Muslimas that always try to separate the two people of the book. Now, and also because like, I do understand like, you look at the people of the book, we're supposed to respect them, treat them kindly because they are the same people of the same faith in a sense. But, they're supposedly like, obviously they diverted in a way too. So I just wanted to bring that up, but let me go ahead and continue.
Please forgive my presumption, if you would. It is time for those of you in the Muslim world to stop fighting among yourselves, you Shiites and Sunnis, and also time to stop regarding the Christians, and even more specifically, the Jews, as your enemies. Why? Not least because you have the enemy located in the wrong place. First, the best place to find Satan, let's say, is within. If you think the true enemy is in someone else's heart, then you haven't thought nearly long enough about the darkness within, and you have therefore fallen prey to the most subtle temptation of the ancient demonic spirit. So your best bet on the spiritual warfare front is to make of yourself and your Muslim practice something so admirable that the light shining from your well-constituted psyches and productive, generous, and wise actions is so intense that people convert to your faith from sheer admiration. There's a goal. Second, far more unites you with the other people of the book, as your own prophet himself, peace be unto him, forthrightly said, than what divides you. You all believe, for example, in a book. You all believe, for example, in God, and believe that you have an ultimate duty to that God. You are all followers of a prophetic tradition, and that is a tradition that unites the wisdom of the past with the vision and voice of those willing to see and speak truly and lovingly in the present. And you are all threatened, in a very real sense, by the system of vengeful Luciferian ideas that currently confronts all that is transcendent, traditional, and valuable on the sexual front, on the familial front, on the conceptual front, on the psychological and sociological front, and, in the final analysis, on the theological front. So, how about we all quit squabbling over trinkets and details and face the real problem? And I should also point out that it is not the individual carriers of the woke, politically correct, degenerate neo-Marxist ideas that should be regarded as the enemy either. First, we must take the idea that the satanic impulse within is the prime enemy with all due seriousness. Second, we must understand that even those quite possessed by the spirit of Cain that attracts and drives confused and lost people to the Luciferian ideologies of the materialist utopians are, in the ideal, fully redeemable and only partially consumed. Even the committed student ideologues who have, for example, attacked me and others like me rather viciously are generally, say, 90% or perhaps 80%, reasonable and potentially civilized people who could still see the light. Muslims, reach across the sectarian divide. Shiites, find a Sunni pen pal. Communicate with someone on the other side. Sunnis, do the same. And then, maybe, reach out, tentatively, to a Christian, or even, heaven forbid, a Jew, because perhaps it is time for those who purport to be followers of God to act like it, and to be convincing in those actions, even to those whose premature cynicism and skepticism have driven them into the towers of Babel, constructed by the avatars of the resentful intellect. Is there someone in the Muslim world willing to build an electronic system to bring people from the Sunni and Shiite community together? A place where people of goodwill could reach electronically across the divide, person to person, and to formulate the kinds of personal, trusting friendships upon which a lasting peace truly might be founded? A place where Jews and Christians, willing and eager to open communication with their Muslim brothers, might do just that? There's a task for someone looking for a purpose, and it's an open invitation to do just that. If you build it, they will come. If you build it, get in touch with me. You'll figure out how to do it, and I'll publicize it. Thank you, all my Muslim listeners, watchers, and readers, for your kind attention and patience. I wish you well as you strive to become the light in the world that your faith truly demands. Let's see if we can unite as people of the book and negotiate our way toward the paradise that we might truly and jointly attain.
Okay, so this was a lot to break down at one time. Okay, so first of all, I'm not too sure. So like I've been a big fan of Jordan Peterson since I entered the red pill space. I remember I was watching a podcast with Fresh and Fit, and they were talking about Jordan Peterson, and then I remember I watched an Abba and Preach video about him talking about Jordan Peterson. And I actually researched a lot of his stuff and went back, and I pretty much like looked at all the videos that he made as far as like dealing with, you know, supposedly the misogyny in the world, and dealing with, you know, men being called misogynists, men being chastised and saying that we're literally pretty much like we're the problem with the world, and all these other things, literally going against these femmies that pretty much just try to put the man down and make him seem like he's the problem with everything in the world. I pretty much really appreciated the fact that he stood up, especially in his own country, against a system that told him that he had to say a specific thing. Now, I'm not one to be disrespectful. I'm very much one to be respectful of what other people believe, but if I'm going to be real with you guys and we're going to keep it real for one time, then I guess this is the time for me to be real. I personally dislike the idea that people are now demanding that we call them by specific pronouns. To me, I grew up in the South. In the South, if you know, you say yes ma'am and no ma'am when it comes to a man and when it comes to a woman. And you say these things not out of disrespect. You say these things out of respect because you realize these people are older than you, and also is to show a little bit of that Southern hospitality. I had times when I was growing up in, you know, this age of pronouns where people have kind of checked me and said, like, don't call me him, call me she, or don't call me she, call me him, or call me they. And even when I was working at my previous job, not the job I just left, but the job before that, it was imperative that we say they and them when it came to writing notes about specific people in their accounts. To me, I thought this was becoming a little bit overboard, and I was thinking to myself, why is it so important that we do this? And I never really understood the context of it until I actually looked into the movements that were taking place as far as the pronouns. I think it was very important to come to the realization that, you know, I'm a big, more liberal leaning person. However, I believe so heartedly that we need to stick to traditional elements in order to keep a stable ground, like especially when it comes to like living your life, when it comes to the world. We have to have a solid base for our house before we start building it up and start, like, you know, implementing our own, architectural designs and differences that divert from the original idea of what it was supposed to be built like. So that's just one thing. I really did appreciate, like, you know, he stood up for that. And I personally think the whole pronoun thing is a little bit absurd. I think that at the end of the day, You know what you are. And yeah, it may come off a certain way, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I believe at the end of the day, you know when you're a man, you know when you're a woman. And I feel sorry for the people that feel confused about what their identity is. However, I think it's imperative that those people go and find the help that they need. And I say this for even myself, as a person that's gone through a lot of stuff in his life. I actually plan on going to therapy soon and actually dealing with my own problems, because I feel like there's a lack of, importance in my life that I feel like I'm like kind of letting linger in my life to this very day. And it's affecting not only myself, but people around me. So it's imperative that we find this help, so that way we can essentially help others that are going through the same thing. And if not that, at least voice ourselves in a way where it may help someone else in a different part of the world. So secondly, I wanted to say that I think the Daily Wire, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not too sure who runs it, but I'm pretty sure it's a more Republican-leaning kind of website for people to speak up on specific issues. Now, I'm not opposed to people speaking up on their beliefs. And I do know in Islam, we don't really stick to liberalism or, to the Republican standpoint. We're more of a middle path. I do understand that wholeheartedly. But I do think it is important that we in this country, especially in the United States, we are able to speak our minds and have the right to speech. Because a lot of the times I feel like nowadays, especially, the world is trying so hard on every platform to demonize people and shut people down when it comes to them expressing themselves on a platform. I remember the good old days, and I will be the first to say, like, as soon as 𝑘𝙚𝙤𝙣𝙩𝙣, no disrespect, took over the YouTube platform, everything went downhill as far as YouTube. I was actually YouTube gaming at the time, and I remember they made so many changes due to the whole Logan Paul, it's Logan Paul, with him going into the forest and doing what he did, and then also with all the people posting videos of really gruesome things online, like prawn or really violent things, and then their advertisement is getting added onto those videos, and those marketers are those advertisers are literally seeing these on videos and they do not support it. So I understand why the advertisers did what they did, but at the time I feel like there could have been some kind of resolution that would have been way more simple for us to come to the conclusion that this is not what this platform stands for. But I feel like 𝑘𝙚𝙤𝙣𝙩𝙣 kind of took it totally left field, made it super restrictive, and now the platform is becoming watered down. Even today, when it comes to the dislike button has been removed because we're supposed to be kind to one another. But we're supposed to be kind to one another, and we're supposed to show this love and discourse from one another. And I understand that we're supposed, there's going to be people that, we're supposed to show love to one another, but I believe that people should still have the right to give their opinion if it's a more critical opinion, and even if it's just straight up negative, then I think that should be fine. I've been one person to not necessarily focus on the negative. I mostly focus on the positive of things, and when somebody says something like, you helped me today, you just put a smile on my face, that does way more for me than someone saying, bro, you're just just they calling you names, saying something racist, sexist, or whatever may have you, when you can easily just remove the comment and just remove that person from your platform altogether. Now, that was a lot to break down just from that alone, but I want to continue by saying this. Thirdly, I think that Jordan Peterson hasn't really proclaimed a specific faith as far as what he follows. From my understanding, he believes in the sense that he acts as if God exists, which doesn't really specify exactly as to what faith he really follows. I believe that he's going down a path where he's trying to find a way to be all three things at one time, kind of like how he was saying in the interview with Hamza Yusuf, with him trying to be a Jew, a Christian, and a Muslim at the same time. And with these three different ideologies in the Abrahamic faith, he's having a hard time compartmentalizing and coming to a conclusion of what he really wants to do. And this is just causing him to be more of a spiritual person versus a religious person. Now, once again, Allahu Alam, I don't know his heart, I don't know his intention, I don't know if he's Muslim yet, Christian yet, I don't know what he is. However, from what I understand, is that he's trying to find a way to unite everyone of people of the book so that we stop arguing over remedial things and actually come to find solutions as a group to heal the world's problems as far as liberalism and taking things way too far as our practices and beliefs. Now, with all that being said, I totally agree with him. I have no disagreements I personally have told people since I entered this platform, my goal as far as making an impact on the Ummah is not only to make someone's day better, educate myself, but also educate others and find solutions so that way we stop arguing and bickering over things that honestly, in my opinion, should not matter. And I always bring up the same examples. I'm not going to get into them again, but I will say, for example, that sometimes when I look at comments on some of these YouTube platforms and I look at like a certain video, or if I look at some of my videos, it always seems as if there's like a handful of people that tend to take things way too seriously and almost to an extremity. Because someone practices or lives their life a different way than you does not mean that they're living a life full of sin and that they're not, living the way specifically that, they should be living. Now, with me saying that does not mean that I'm giving permission or telling people that they should be able to do whatever they want, which is not true whatsoever. But what I am saying is that when it comes to some things, I feel like that are very minuscule and tiny. I feel like those things are very much expanded and looked at as if they're like a major problem, when honestly I feel like they're literally a part of the problem. So for example, when it comes to like when you look at the world right now, especially in the Western world, there's so much separation and a lot of people that are just very, how can I say this? People that are apathetic in this world, and I feel like that needs to change. And so when it comes to those kind of things, when it comes to like not believing in God, and when it comes to literally forcing this ideology of like pronouns, for example, onto someone that really doesn't care for those things, I feel like that's kind of like impeaching on someone's rights as far as like them saying what they want to say. Now, I understand completely that there's going to be people out here that are just going to say what they want to say anyway. And, feelings might get hurt. But at the same time, life is very, very, one thing that I always stick by is that I understand life is very hard. Life is very cruel. There's going to be some cruel and mean individuals out there, and there's not much you can do about it. Only thing that we can do is learn to just take it in, get thicker skin from it, and just continue to live our lives. At the end of the day, if you're reading comments online about you, you got to remember that these are just people behind the screen saying and doing whatever they want to do in order to pretty much piss you off. So with that being said, I understand and agree with him on that point as far as like not arguing amongst one another. And I point out the Christians too. I point out to some of the Jews, and like when it comes to like some videos that I watch online, I've seen videos from Christians are debating Muslims and debating Jews, and then Jews are debating Christians and Muslims are debating Jews and Christians. Like which is good. I feel like it's good to have a healthy discourse as far as having a conversation. But sometimes I feel those conversations get a little bit overboard, and it results in the end product of people kind of just bashing each other, talking crap about one another. Not all the time, but majority of the time I think that's what like honestly gets most of the clicks when it comes to debate videos especially. The fourth thing that I don't agree with is him talking about the problems between the Shiites and the Sunnis. Now, I do understand that there's a disconnect, heavily a strong disconnect between the two practices. One's traditional and one's totally not traditional, or at least for what we know. But from what I can understand from like taking it from all of these things is that, I don't really see as many problems with Sunnis and Shiites versus like people of different faiths arguing about who's right and who's wrong. Now, I do understand there is a historical part when it comes to how can I say this? There's a historical issue when it comes to how do you practice Islam. And even though we all know the truth and Shiites do not decide to go with it, I still, as a person, am open-minded to what they believe in. Now, I will say the other day that it did kind of ring true somewhat, because I had posted I believe a hadith that was honestly supposedly not authentic. I'm still learning about hadith, so I feel like, the thing is for me, yes, I should not have posted it if I hadn't had any specific knowledge. Someone did point that out, and I do agree to that. Maybe I should have like looked into it a little bit more. But that's the thing. As a person that's kind of living his day-to-day life and kind of going through life just, doing what he can, sometimes we don't always have the time to stop and research every single thing that people are learning about. Sometimes we just see something and it aligns to what we think, or it may make sense to us, and so we share it. And even though we don't know the exact source, sometimes it doesn't matter what the source is. So we tend to share it. So in that sense, I feel like I was kind of like bombarded a little bit when it came to, you know, oh, look, bro, like, yo, you're tripping. Like, that's a Shiite, like, hadith. You need to think about these things a little more. I do agree to that, but at the same time, I feel like I was bombarded a little too much as far as like, you know, yo, bro, like this is totally, you know, not right. This is kafir talk right here. It's like, okay, I get it, okay, but you know, just say, hey man, it doesn't take you to say a whole paragraph of things in order to tell someone, hey bro, like this is not good, just remove it. You know, that's all you have to say. You know what I'm saying? Like all you have to do is say that. And a person is more likely to, like, you know, be understanding. Now, if a person wants to find more clarity, then I feel like they're opening themselves up more to a situation where it's like, hey, you're opening yourself up to wanting more details as to why this is wrong, then I'm going to tell you the full answer. But it doesn't take that in order for you to say, hey, man, look, this is a Shiite, hey, bro, this is a Shiite hadith. You might just want to remove it. That's all you have to say. You don't have to say anything else. You don't have to go and add detail. You don't have to go and pull another hadith to say this is what you don't have to do all that. I think it's simple to say just remove it. You know, that's all it takes. But I digress, and I say for a fact that I feel like Jordan Peterson kind of doesn't understand the differences between the Shiites and the Sunnis. And talking about making a pen pal from them, I don't think that he went about that the right way. I think the thing is, when it comes to the differences in opinions and the way you practice the faith, at the end of the day, I think that we all believe in the same book, and we just practice the things differently, and people take things out of context. And even in the Sunni traditions, you have different people in the Sunni tradition that take the hadith and take scripture a little slightly different than others. Though it pretty much is the same, it's just some people may take it differently. Though the Shiites take it a whole way differently, I do not condemn those people for those things. Allah knows their heart, and Allah knows what's best. At the end of the day, once again, I feel like it's very imperative that people come to the realization that we weren't there at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him. We have books and we have things that were written, but where like the context derives, we rely on our scholars for those things. And who knows, at the end of the day, once again, the scholars might be wrong. They might read something that might be wrong. I'm not saying that they are wrong, but you never know. So me kind of coming to that realization that, you know, finding a Sunni Shia pen pal and kind of explaining things to one another, I don't think that's very much necessary. And I think he kind of takes that way out of context. The fifth and final thing is that I think this is kind of hypocritical for him to speak on a religion that he knows little about. From what I understand, he invited a lot of people onto his podcast in order to pretty much gain an understanding about Islam and to understand exactly as to what, like why the rules are a certain way and why is it so difficult. And even Hamza Yusuf himself said it's not a difficult religion. Honestly, it's very simple. And as a person that's very much loves to stick to rules, I pretty much love the idea that Islam provides a lot of different rulings, and that and most of the time the rulings are pretty much simple. Like, they're not something that's super hard. And I always say it to people all the time that ask me questions about Islam to this day, like, you know, like, why is it so strict? I tell them it's not really that strict. If you really think about it, mostly what's strict is like how you practice the faith and literally like what you really eat. And you kind of, you know, eat. And, you know, when it comes to relationships, as far as men and women, those are like the three biggest things that are honestly the most strictest of all. Other than that, everything else is pretty much like just, you know, everything's fine. There is no problem with you practicing certain things and doing certain things. It's just that those three things are the biggest, and I think people blow those things up way out of context and say that, hey, this is a really strict religion, when honestly it's not. And with that being said, I think that's what Jordan Peterson is kind of like aiming at when it comes to these videos. Like, he seemed like he just doesn't understand it. And when honestly, there's not much to understand. I think that he's really caught up in the more spiritual aspect as like a Christian mindset than he is more of a more practical mindset when it comes to faith. And these things are causing cognitive dissonance within him, because it seems as though that he really wants to dive into the faith, but he pulls away from it because he's probably, I don't know, maybe because he's looking to certain things already and he just doesn't understand it well enough, and it causes him to think to himself he might lose followers or whatever may have you. I don't know exactly as to what the reason is, Allahu Alam. But I hope that he would do more research on his own and actually just go ask the proper people questions, instead of just making these accusations that, you know, Muslims are just squabbling and arguing amongst one another, which is not true. When I go to the mosque, I don't see any arguing. All I see is a whole bunch of people that just love one another. And that's pretty much it. So with that being said, I don't really have much else to say. If you guys did like the commentary, please hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell notification if you really want to see more content. I will be adding the join button to my YouTube channel. So if you really want to be a supporter of mine, you can hit the join, and I'll probably make the subscription very cheap for you guys, so that way you don't waste your money. I don't think that I'm a big enough YouTuber yet to really make the button. But if people really want to see more videos and more content, the only way for you to see more content is to support me. And the reason why I say that is because, well, guys, like I got to make money some way, shape, or form. And YouTube, you know, obviously just steals a lot of your money. It takes, if you don't know, a lot of the time YouTube, even off the videos itself, they take a lot of the majority of the money that's been off of advertisements and keep it for themselves and barely pay the YouTubers at all. And so it's very difficult to maintain, you know, doing something at the same time, you know, as far as like, you know, you want to make content, but when you feel like you're not being rewarded for something as far as you putting in the work and you actually trying to invest into something so much and get little to gain from it, it becomes one of those things where it's like, what am I even doing this for? And at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's not about the clicks and the views. It's honestly just connecting with you guys and understanding that Islam is the truth, and understanding and, you know, and just, you know, connecting in a sense as far as the ummah, and, you know, giving people a platform to come to where they can vent themselves without feeling as if like they're being, you know, chastised for doing something, you know, just expressing themselves in a different way. That, you know, maybe some people may say that Islam is not halal, but it's like, well, there's not really anything in the Quran that says, it's not really much in the Quran that talks about mental health and some things of that nature. I mean, but there is a lot of hadith that speak on it, but at the same time, it's not something that's so in depth that this is like a major problem, or this is a major thing that we can do or can't do. It's very vague, and it's all, honestly, at this point, like when it comes to things that are vague, I don't tend to focus on it so much. I just take from it and I just leave it as is. So once again, I'm done speaking. I've spoken way too long. I love you guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video or live stream. 𝙁𝙚𝙩𝙣𝙩𝙣𝙯𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗